$1 trillion is a number so large the human brain isn't built to comprehend. You used to tell yourself that. You used to believe that your wealth was a permanent physical law of the universe, like gravity or time. But gravity works both ways, and when you are at the absolute peak of the world, the fall is silent, fast, and total. It didn't happen overnight, but once the first domino fell, there was nothing you could do to stop the rest. It started with a sovereign debt crisis, a sudden, unprecedented freeze on global liquidity, and a coordinated regulatory raid on your primary holding companies. Within 48 hours, the empire that took a lifetime to build began to dissolve. Your 7 screens in the compound office didn't show your rising net worth anymore. They showed red, deep, bleeding red. The trading halts didn't save you. The emergency board meetings didn't save you. By the end of the first week, your primary banks locked your accounts. The government intervened. The courts issued a worldwide freezing order. Your accountant, the one who used to log million-dollar purchases as rounding errors, called you at midnight. His voice was flat, empty of the usual deference. He didn't say "sir" anymore. He told you that after the liquidation of your liabilities, the margin calls, and the sovereign seizures, there was nothing left. Not $1 billion, not $1 million. You were in the red. The richest person to ever live had just become the most indebted person on Earth. The dismantling of $1 trillion life is a highly coordinated, bureaucratic process. First went Bugatti. The company you bought on a whim for $2 billion was sold in a forced bankruptcy auction to a rival automotive conglomerate. They bought it for 15 cents on the dollar. Your signature on the transfer papers felt heavy, but nobody was looking at you. They were looking at the assets. Next was the private flying residence. The Boeing 747 you spent $400 million to gut and rebuild was towed from its private hangar. You watched a video of it on your phone, a news report showing the custom gold-plated interior being stripped out by federal liquidators. Then the yacht, the largest private vessel ever built, with its submarine bay and helicopter pad, was arrested by a maritime court in Gibraltar. It sat at the dock, dark and silent, a floating monument to a life that was already slipping away. But the hardest part wasn't the machines. It was the compound, the 14 acres behind the iron gates, the property you bought to escape the world. The bank took possession on a Tuesday. You had to tell the staff, all 63 of them. You called them into the main foyer, the housekeepers, the groundskeepers, the private chefs, the IT security team, the drivers. They stood in the space that once felt like a museum, looking at you. Some looked angry, some looked pitying, most just looked worried about their next paycheck. You apologized. You told them that their final week's pay would be processed through the bankruptcy court, though you couldn't promise when. The house manager, the man who had run your life with military precision for years, nodded once. He didn't offer a handshake. He just turned and began organizing the departure. By Thursday afternoon, the compound was empty. You stood by the second-floor window watching the last of the cars drive through the iron gates. The gates stayed open. The guardhouse at the entrance was dark. The monitors turned off. The security cameras still and lifeless. The silence of a 14-acre estate when there is no one left to run it is deafening. No lawnmowers, no kitchen hum, just the sound of the wind through the trees and the realization that you were entirely, utterly alone. You still needed to eat. You still needed coffee. You walked out of the open gates of your former compound. No security detail, no armored SUV, no advance team to clear the perimeter. You walked down the private road carrying a single duffel bag of the clothes they let you keep. You walked into the city. You went to the same coffee shop you used to avoid because of the paparazzi. When you walked in, the room didn't fall silent because of awe. It fell silent because of curiosity. The barista didn't shake. She looked at you with a cold, detached professionalism. "That will be $4.50, she said. You reached into your pocket. Your black titanium card, the one with no limit, was useless. You pulled out a crumpled $20 bill, the last physical cash you had taken out of a desk drawer before the locks were changed on your office. In the corner, someone was filming you, not from behind a laptop screen to be polite, but openly, holding their phone up, whispering into the microphone. By the time you sat down at a corner table, the video was already online. The caption read, "The fallen giant buying his own coffee. How the mighty have fallen." The media, which had spent years analyzing your wealth, now spent 24 hours a day analyzing your ruin. The late-night hosts made jokes about your bankruptcy. The financial analysts who once praised your genius now explained with perfect hindsight why your business model was always a house of cards. You weren't a figure of envy anymore. You were a cautionary tale, a meme, a punchline. When you had money, your phone never stopped ringing. Lawyers, wealth managers, charities, heads of state, they all wanted a piece of the trillion. Now, the phone was silent. The floor of the law firm that worked exclusively on your cases stopped returning your calls the moment your retainer cleared to zero. The 17 lawsuits that had plagued your life simply dissolved because there was no money left for anyone to sue you for. You were judgment-proof. You had nothing to take. The friends who had started to sound careful and measured when you were rich didn't sound careful anymore. They didn't sound like anything. They simply vanished. You called your college roommate, the one who had agreed with you for 2 days straight at your compound. The call went straight to voicemail. 2 days later, you saw him on a primetime television special. He was the exclusive source, sharing details about your erratic behavior and isolated lifestyle during your peak. He was paid $50,000 for the interview. Your past was still being sold, but this time, you weren't the one benefiting. Your brother didn't call either. The millions you had sent him to pay off his mortgage and fix his car, he kept them. He had structured the transfer through a private trust that the bankruptcy liquidators couldn't touch. You thought about calling him, asking for a place to stay, just a spare room until you figured things out. But you remembered his face at the holiday dinner, the resentment in his eyes. You knew that if you called, the answer would be no, or worse, it would be a lecture. The only person who did call was your mother. She didn't ask about the companies. She didn't ask about the frozen assets. She just asked if you had a place to sleep tonight. For the first time in years, you didn't have a security detail to worry about or a PR crisis to manage. But as you listened to her voice, you realized the damage was already done. The family had been broken by the arrival of the money, and the departure of it couldn't mend the cracks. "I'm fine, Mom," you lied. "I've got a place." Your new home is a 400-square-foot studio apartment on the edge of the city. The wallpaper is peeling in the corner. The heater makes a loud, rhythmic clanking noise every 20 minutes. There is no wine cellar. There is no private theater. There are no security cameras tracking your movements down the hallway. At 3 a.m., you wake up. The room is cold. You walk out onto the small, rusted fire escape outside your window. The metal grates press into the soles of your bare feet. You look up at the sky. It is the exact same sky. The same stars, the same depth, the same silence. You remember standing in the middle of the 14-acre lawn, freezing under the starlight, feeling the crushing weight of $1 trillion and the 63 people waiting for you inside. You remember the paranoia, the constant suffocating fear of losing what you had. Now, you have nothing left to lose. The world is no longer in the palm of your hand. It has moved on, finding new giants to envy and new fortunes to build. You stand on the fire escape until your bones ache from the cold. You take a deep breath of the city air. It tastes of exhaust and damp concrete, completely different from the clean ocean breeze of the South Pacific island you used to own. But your chest doesn't feel heavy anymore. You step back inside, close the window, and lock the simple brass latch. You lie down on a bed that costs $200, pull the thin blanket over your shoulders, and for the first time in 10 years, you fall asleep without worrying about tomorrow.